Hello and welcome back to the GWSDAT official tutorial series. Today we're going to be covering spatial plotting. This video specifically covers the spatial plot section of the analysis tool in GWSDAT. For all videos in section 4 of the video series, we will be using this complex example. The spatial plot shows the spatial trends in solute concentration, groundwater flow, and NAPL thickness. It displays a coordinate grid with well locations, well names, and the measured values at those wells. Black for non-detect values and red for detect values. Above the plot is displayed the date interval. This interval is from the 4th of October to the 3rd of November of the same year, because we've aggregated by month, so it's a 1 month interval. If a GIS shapefile has been provided, then that's also overlaid on top of the data. GWSDAT uses spatiotemporal modeling, meaning it looks at both the data over the area but also over the time period simultaneously. This gives a better analysis than the examination of concentration maps at sole isolated time points, or time trends at isolated locations. So the code can borrow strength from neighboring data. The slider at the bottom right of the page here can be used to explore the changing concentrations over time. This can be clicked and dragged, as shown. Pressing play will activate movie mode, where in a PowerPoint-like style, we will move through each time period, looking at each plot individually. You can then choose, for say the specific plot here from the 4th of July to the 3rd of August, an image format, PNG, JPEG, PDF, PS, PowerPoint, or TIFF. Then we can choose to save that plot. We can also generate a PowerPoint animation of that in full. Now we can move on to the settings. The first setting is Aggregate By. This is a drop-down menu which lets you change the temporal plotting resolution to be altered. It also provides the same function as the model output interval covered in video 3.2. We can choose day, in which case this would be a 1-day plot. We can choose month, quarter, or year, and these will change the interval for the plot. The next list is the substance drop-down, which lets you select the substance you want to be plotted, either ethylbenzene, toluene, THP, nitrate, or sulfate. Below that's a radial menu for solute concentration unit, which lets you choose the unit of your solute concentration. Plot type is the main setting that we'll want to be changing. The default one, Conc Terrain, overlays the predictions of the spatiotemporal solute concentration smoother for a particular model output interval using a terrain color scheme. The default will always be the most recent date given. For example, we've selected year, so the most recent year is the 4th of November 2008 to the 3rd of November 2009. Dark green indicates very low solute concentration, going via yellow and brown, increasing to almost white to estimate the highest solute concentrations. The values of the color scheme can be read off the key here. As the user moves through the time steps, you may notice that the area of the graph changes. For example, here it doesn't include MW104, but here it does include MW104. This is because the data is only ever interpolated and never extrapolated to avoid any erroneous results. For each of the time steps, the model calculates the area from a convex hull of the points. This is a shape that can be thought of as the largest shape that surrounds all of the points. Conc Topo, as the next option here, is functionally the same as Conc Terrain, but uses a different color scheme, a topographic color scheme, which gradates increasing solute concentrations through blue, green, yellow, and beige. Conc Grayscale is also functionally the same as Conc Terrain, but uses a grayscale color scheme, which, because it only relies on brightness, is ideal for black and white printing and can be helpful with people with visual impairment. Conc Terrain-Circles overlays terrain color-coded circles located at the wells, which have been monitored within the context of the model output interval. The circle size scales off the log of the observed solute concentration values, and the concentration range can be read off the key to the right here. These are particularly useful if you don't trust or want to get a second opinion of the model created, This shows a circle purely based on the data inputted for each well. Conc Topo-Circles is identical to Conc Terrain-Circles, but again uses the topographic color scheme. In the same fashion, Conc Grayscale-Circles is the same as the other two, using grayscale for the circle's color scheme. The final option is NAPL Circles. NAPL Circles displays the observed NAPL thickness within the current model output interval as size-scaled and color-coded circles. NAPL thickness ranges are read off from the color key on the right of the plot here. Colors are gradated from a dark red through yellow to almost pure white through the increasing NAPL thicknesses. The locations of the wells that have recorded NAPL in any part of the monitoring data are colored with red dots, as opposed to those without, which are colored with black dots. The recommended settings are either terrain circles or topo-circles. We'll now look at the plot options. Well labels controls whether to display well identifiers on the graphic. Toggling it off will remove the well identifiers. This can help with cluttering in the graph. Scale colors will scale the color to the data. For example, if we go back to Conc Terrain, this will now have it scaled so that the maximum value in the color spectrum corresponds to the maximum value in the data set and not the predefined color spectrum, which means that the graph will change more drastically as we go through it. Show conc values shows whether the displayed sample data is shown on the map. If we toggle it off, we lose that again, helping with some clarity on the graph. Show groundwater contour adds contour lines of groundwater level data. This will superimpose these isobars of smoothed groundwater elevation on top of the solute concentration block. This is achieved through a 2D extension of a local linear regression. And moving through, these obviously change. Overlay shapefiles very simply overlays whether the GIS shapefile is on the map, which can help with contextualizing your data. And finally, Plume Diagnostics. Plume Diagnostic controls whether to calculate and display the diagnostic quantities from the predictions of the spatiotemporal concentration smoother. The delineated plume boundary is displayed with a solid red line, as you can see here, which also includes a label displaying the plume threshold value. If the plume boundary lies completely within the area covered by the graphic, i.e. it forms a closed loop in the area, then the plume center of mass is displayed with an X, and then the whole area of the plume is written down here. We do not have that in this data set, but I'm sure you will find it when you're using this program. For this to be correct, however, the plume diagnostics to be used in the coordinates field in the well coordinates must be specified. More details about plumes can be found in video 4.2. The blue arrows on the display here are toggled with this groundwater flow radial selector. They show the estimated direction and relative hydraulic gradient of groundwater flow at monitoring points across the site. This is calculated from the combination of well coordinates and recorded groundwater elevations for this model output instance. This radio group allows you to choose whether to not display these, to display only their direction, i.e. all the lines are the same length, and weighted length, which scales the strength of the direction and shows the direction. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. There'll be a link in the description to a feedback form.